Hello and welcome. This is Self-Control. This is the podcast and YouTube series that seeks to inspire you to take control of your mind, take control of your mindset, and start to build that life that you deserve to live. I really try and reduce the judgment here. I'm not telling you to believe certain things or to do certain things. I'm putting into words, putting into practice, let's say, things that I have learned along the way. Improve my relationship with food, improve my relationship and consumption of drugs and alcohol, and improve my mindset towards a much more positive, realistic way of looking at the world. And I don't know, you get there and something inside you drives you to try and share it, try and put into words exactly how this has happened. So it's been a long time since I've done an episode. I'm motivated again to start putting this content out, and I would sure love to hear back from you. Subscribe if you find it useful. Share it with people you think might also enjoy it. Leave a comment. Get in touch with me through Facebook. Would love to start building these conversations, building this community again with you. So let's take it back to basics today. Self-control, that is the name of this show. And self-control is a phrase that many of us, including myself, we spit it out, we bandy it around, we use it. What does it mean? I think that myself included, many of us want to improve our self-control. But what do we really mean when we talk about self-control? So in today's episode, I want to, in fact, tell you that you're probably thinking about self-control wrong. Maybe not wrong, but I want to give you an expanded definition, a bigger way to think of self-control so that we can actually become empowered today to take steps to have more self-control, to improve our self-control, to get the outcomes we desire from our life. So we're going to expand our definition of self-control, and I'm going to give you concrete steps you can take today to begin to work towards an improved self-control. So first and foremost, I think when a lot of us think of self-control, we almost think of a video game controller, right? We control ourselves to do or not do a certain thing, force ourselves to go work out, force ourselves not to reach into the cookie jar, force ourselves not to call up old what's-her-name or what's-his-name for another hookup with no relationship and no respect, for instance. We all have habits, we all have thought patterns that we believe we should not be engaging in or we should be doing more of. Now, should is a dirty word. So to me, when we look at self-control only that way, it's like self-abuse. We say, well, I should do this so I can get to this imagined better state, this better place, this better body, this happier, more money, more sex, whatever that looks like, this imagined place. By doing a thing or not doing a thing now, I can get myself there. It's a very human way of looking at things. But to me, that is actually a form of self-abuse. Because if we don't get that outcome, if we do or do not do that action, we can beat ourselves up and say, well, we failed. I didn't do it, right? I told myself I would go to the gym 5 days this week. I went once. I'm a failure. Because now I'm not getting that beach body in time for summer. I told myself that I wouldn't go rummaging around in the freezer looking for ice cream after dinner. And here I am, I've done it. I'm not going to have that beach body. I'm a failure. We abuse ourselves when we set up these conditions for self-control. So let me ask you now, where in your life does this happen? Where are you putting conditions? Where are you trying to control yourself to do or not do something in the hopes of a better future? Let's think about it. We can all think about it. Now, for me, the example I'm going to use in today's episode is food. I have a very interesting relationship with food. I think food was my first drug from a young age, and I'm beginning to see how I use it to numb and distract and pleasure myself. And food should be pleasurable a lot of the time, but when we're overindulging, when we're eating not for nutrition, but simply just to feel something or not feel something, that can be a real problem. So for me, A lot of the time I say, well, I should eat this way so that I stay at this weight or look this way, or I believe that eating this food will make me feel this way, right? I eat liver and onions now because of some belief I have about the vitamin content of liver. So we can see now how self-control looked at this way is somewhat abusive. We say things have to be this way, I must do this to get myself here. I'm not who I want to be, I must get there. And of course, it's great to aspire to a better future through your actions. That's all we have is our actions. But when we slip up, when we let it go, when we fail, when that self-control and that self-discipline leaves us and we act in the way we don't believe we should, we then abuse ourselves. Negative language, despair, hopelessness, feeling like, well, I'll never get there. I'll just never get there. We begin to cast spells on ourselves, right? We speak negatively to ourselves and we endanger ourselves that way. So let's now talk about this new way of thinking about self-control. Let's expand our definition so we can become empowered today. We're going to do that right after your wake-up call.
So, for you, now, where are those things in your life where you find yourself saying, I need to stop this. I can't help but do this. I don't want to be this. I need to be this. Where are those places where you're essentially tearing yourself apart, saying, I'm not the thing I want to be, and I'm not there. Who I am is not right. Where I'm going, I'm not there. Okay? Where's that thing? For me, eating is a big one. I knew I could stand to lose some weight. In the past, marijuana was a problem in my life. Nothing as far as unhealthy habits changed for me until I created for myself a record, not even a vision, right? Because a lot of the times we make this plan and say, my plan is to stop drinking tomorrow. It's like, good luck. Good luck with that, buddy. But why don't we instead start a journal? And in that journal, we write down as much as we can stomach about our drinking habits. When does it start? What do you like to drink? What do you like about drinking? What do you do when you're drunk? What do you do when you're drinking? How does that seem to play out? What outcomes are we getting? And now you can start to make this your project. Self-control is about creating that vision, but first creating a record, looking back, looking at yourself, having the courage to look at yourself and say to yourself, this is what we're doing, not what we want to do, not what we used to do, not what we maybe think we used to do, but what do we do? What are we doing day to day? How's that looking? How's that playing out for us? Those are the 3 questions you need to ask yourself as you create your record. What are we doing? How much? What does it feel like? Quantify it, right? Put numbers. Put big words that you maybe don't even know what they mean. And then, of course, how is it playing out? What are the outcomes I'm getting? Well, I'm spending, geez, look at that. I spend $1,000 a month on drinking and junk food and cab rides home. Oh, look, I spend, gambling is tough because I don't have any experience with it, but there's a pretty stark and easy way to measure that. How much money am I spending? How much am I making back? And if you're good at gambling, far be it from me to tell you to quit.
So here's something I think you'll really dig. Let's talk about the word control. Now, control actually has its roots in Latin. It was a compound word, contra rotulus, against wheel. And you're thinking, okay, this is not helping. This is really not helping. Against the wheel. Against the wheel. Well, I would encourage you to check out a website called Etym Online, ETYM Online. And this has the etymology, the roots, the meaning of the words that we use. So when it comes to control, to check against the wheel, it seemed to come about from this idea of checking one record against another. So forget the idea of wheel, but we could say that it was something like a record, a recording, and you had two of them. Let's have a quick example here. Let's say you've loaned your brother $1,200, right? And we've made the deal. You're going to pay me back $100 a month over the next year, pay back that $1,200. So let's say one night you're sitting around with your brother. You say, "Hey, are you able to pay that $100 this month like we agreed, and we'll start paying this loan off?" And he'll say, "Well, no, I think we agreed on $50 a month for 2 years." And you're saying, "Well, I think after 1 year, we agree that there's going to have to be some interest on that loan, or I'm never going to see my money again." He said, "No, I think we decided 2 years, no interest." Well, it's time for a little control. You've got your record. He's got his harebrained record. We're going to now check those two things against one another. The record that you have could be thought of like the control group in a scientific experiment. The group of subjects who don't get the medication, who don't receive any sort of treatment, and we see how they fare against those who do. So let's think about control then as a checking of one thing against another. So when it comes to self-control, we're essentially saying you need to check yourself before you wreck yourself. You need to develop for yourself a record of your being, which you can check your current behavior against. Let me give you another example. For myself, over the last year or so, I've managed to lose about 40 pounds almost and keep most of that weight off. Now, so much of that I was able to accomplish was because of my meal plan, which took the form of many, many spreadsheets in Excel where I could track when I was eating, what I was eating, calories, nutrients, all those sorts of things. So, okay, that diet spreadsheet for me could be considered the wheel, the record, the rota, the rotulus, the thing that I remember, contra rotulus, check against the wheel. I have this text, this document, this recording that I can now say, okay, well, today I feel like eating 3 pounds of spaghetti and 14 sausages. How's that going to shake out? Well, that's like 12,000 calories. When we check that against the plan, it doesn't look so good. So let me ask you now. Can you think about the places or the actions, the behaviors in your life where you seem to use that negative language, that self-abusive language? I don't want to eat this because then I won't look this way. I shouldn't call that person up because they don't respect me. We're not having a productive relationship. I don't want to go out for beers after work because I can't stop at one beer. I'm going to have 4 beers, start flirting with the waitress, order whiskey shots, have to take a cab home, maybe not even make it to work in the morning. I don't know. I'm just making things up. Where in your life do you speak to yourself negatively and abusively about your behavior? Is it alcohol, food, procrastination, not looking for a new job, staying in a job that's just beating you down? That's how we're thinking of self-control in the old, small way. But that is going to be your guide into this new way of self-control. Find that place in your life. For me, it's food. That negativity, that sort of forcing myself to do or think a certain way, that becomes the place that you need to begin to create your record. And I'll tell you, nothing changed for me. A 15-year marijuana habit, a 15-year pornography habit, a whole lifetime of eating excessively, of using food like a drug, being a very introverted, shy, unself-confident person. None of that ever improved for me. None of that changed for me until I started keeping a record of my behavior. So I'm encouraging you to start writing in a journal or start speaking voice memos on your phone. Start making videos like this. It can be a couple of words a night just to get started, a few lines on a page. a few minutes talking into your phone. How did your day go? And more importantly, start keeping a record of your behavior, right? How are you eating and how is that playing out in your life? How much are you drinking and how is that playing out in your life? How many times are you speaking to yourself, cursing yourself, negatively abusing yourself and heaping scorn on yourself around a certain behavior that you think you need to change? This to me is the beginning of the creation of your autological text, your record. Autological is the study of the self. That's what I encourage for you, is to begin to study yourself. Create that record. See the outcomes that you are getting in your life. And in the moment, more and more, check yourself against the record before you wreck yourself. What's going to happen if I start down this road of going for beer, going to drink beer after work? What's going to happen if I start down this road of calling old what's-her-name again? What's going to happen? What's going to happen if I just put that podcast in, stop paying attention to my breathing, and just start cooking and start eating, and God, all of a sudden it's 8 o'clock and I've eaten 3,000 calories? What's going to happen? For me, self-control is about creating a perspective across time. I think it's best to start in the past. Start keeping a record of your behavior that you can reflect back upon. From there, and we will talk about this going forward in the coming months, we can begin to create a vision, a future for ourselves, not based on abuse, not based on I need to be this, but knowing confidently that this is where I'm going. So we'll leave it there for now. But I want to hear from you. Where in your life are you exercising self-control in an abusive way? And could you instead start to observe yourself and see the outcomes you're getting and begin to consider how you might improve those behaviors? We'll talk more about that coming up. And I do look forward to hearing from you, starting these conversations again, and building this community. And until we speak again, I'll wish you the best going forward.